For Kate Whitmore, the trip to Dubai had felt like a promise. At 65, retired after 4 demanding decades as a nurse in Newark, she had learned to live with the quiet emptiness that followed her husband's passing and the gradual distance that formed between her and her only daughter. So when Jessica invited her along on a business-plus vacation trip, a chance to see a part of the world Kate had only read about, a chance to reconnect, she accepted with a hopeful, grateful heart. The first 4 days went better than Kate had dared to expect. Jessica seemed softer, almost like the young woman she had once been, affectionate, patient, attentive. She made sure her mother rested during the long walks through Dubai Mall. She asked about Kate's old stories from the hospital. She even laughed, a real warm laugh, during a sunset boat ride near the marina. Kate held on to those moments. She told herself that perhaps the years of strain were finally shifting, that maybe Jessica had simply needed time to grow into the daughter she used to be. Kate fell asleep each night believing she had her child back. Everything changed on the morning of the 5th day. They were having breakfast on the hotel's terrace, a quiet spot overlooking the sea. Kate was stirring her tea when Jessica's phone buzzed. Jessica frowned at the screen, took the call and stepped aside. The conversation lasted less than a minute, but when she came back to the table, something sharp had settled in her expression. Her shoulders stiffened. Her voice dropped into a clipped, irritated tone Kate hadn't heard in months. "We need to talk," Jessica said. Kate set her spoon down. "Is something wrong?" "I need money," Jessica replied, not bothering to soften it. "The tuition payment for the kids' school is due next week. Private school. You know how expensive that is. I need you to cover it." Kate blinked, startled not just by the demand, but by the abrupt shift in Jessica's mood. "Honey, I don't have that kind of money anymore. You know, I used most of what I had to help you last year. Your car repairs, the deposit on your new apartment, the tutoring for Brandon." Jessica's jaw tightened. "So you're saying no?" "It's not no," Kate said gently. "It's just, I don't have it. I really don't." Jessica's voice rose instantly, slicing through the quiet morning air. "God, you're unbelievable. You're selfish, Mom. You're always thinking about yourself." Kate's breath caught. "Jessica, no. Don't Jessica me." Her daughter's face hardened in a way that made Kate's stomach turn. "You're useless. Do you know that? A burden. A failed mother who can't even help her own grandchildren." Kate froze. She felt every word land like a physical blow. Unexpected, unprovoked, and cruel. There was no reasoning with Jessica now. Her anger ran too hot, too fast. Without waiting for a response, Jessica stood and grabbed her tote bag. "Get up," she snapped. "Pack your things. You're leaving today." Kate's heart stumbled in her chest. "Leaving? What? Why?" "Because I'm not dealing with this. You can go home. I have work to do. Just move." Before Kate could gather her thoughts, Jessica was already walking briskly toward the elevator, forcing Kate to follow. The ride back to the hotel was silent, heavy with hostility. Jessica didn't look at her once. Upstairs, Kate packed slowly, hands trembling over folded shirts and small souvenirs she had bought for the grandchildren. She didn't understand what had triggered this storm. She didn't understand how love could turn to contempt in the span of a single phone call. The drive to the airport was even quieter. Jessica stared straight ahead, her face expressionless, as though she were driving a stranger. When they reached the departure curb, Jessica put the car in park, turned to Kate with a cold efficiency, and extended her hand. "Give me your phone." Kate hesitated. "Why?" "It's on my plan. I'm not paying for you to wander around Dubai, racking up charges." Reluctantly, Kate handed it over. Jessica immediately reached for her mother's purse, pulling out her wallet and removing her credit cards with quick, practiced motions. Then she pressed a single folded bill, $100, into Kate's palm. The gesture felt like an insult disguised as charity. "You've got your passport," Jessica said. "You'll manage." From her tote bag, she pulled out a printed flight itinerary and placed it on Kate's suitcase. Kate didn't recognize the airline or the flight number, but she was too shaken to question it. Jessica stepped back, expression flat. "Good luck, Mom." Then she turned, got into the car, and drove away without looking back. Kate stood alone on the curb, the heat rising from the pavement, the false itinerary fluttering in her hand. And the world she thought she understood suddenly pulled out from beneath her feet, inside the bustling terminal of Dubai International Airport. Kate Whitmore gripped the printed itinerary Jessica had shoved into her hand. She approached the departure board, scanning line after line of flight numbers, searching for the one listed on her sheet. Nothing matched. She tried again, slower this time, blinking hard to steady her vision. The flight wasn't on the board. Not delayed, not cancelled, simply non-existent. A thin thread of panic tightened in her chest. She walked to the nearest airline counter and held out the paper. "Excuse me, is this the right place?" The agent glanced at it, frowned politely, and shook her head. "No flight, ma'am. Not this number." I don't understand," Kate whispered. The woman tried to explain further, her English kind but heavily accented. Kate nodded, even though the words hardly registered. The shock from Jessica's abandonment pressed against her ribs, like a hand squeezing too tightly. She stepped aside, trying another counter, then another. Each time, the same answer. No such flight, no such gate, no reservation under her name. The last of her hope dissolved. She felt suddenly small in the bright, echoing hall. Her legs trembled, and she moved toward a quiet corner near a row of empty seats. She lowered herself onto the bench, clasping her hands, fighting to keep her breathing steady. The exhaustion, the humiliation, the fear, all of it finally spilled over. She bowed her head, shoulders shaking slightly as she cried, careful to keep the sound contained. People passed without noticing. In a place this large, one woman's heartbreak barely made a ripple. "Excuse me." The voice was calm, masculine, with a soft Middle Eastern lilt. Kate looked up to see a well-dressed man in his early 50s, impeccable suit, watch gleaming, posture confident yet relaxed. He offered a polite smile. "I'm sorry to disturb you," he said quietly. "May I ask a very strange favor? Just for one moment." Kate blinked, confused. Favor?" "Would you mind pretending to be my wife," he said, lowering his voice, "for about 30 seconds?" She stared at him, unsure if she'd heard correctly. He gestured subtly behind him, where a group of people, clearly acquaintances, were walking toward the concourse. It would help me avoid a rather uncomfortable reunion. Under different circumstances, Kate might have laughed. Today, she only managed a faint nod. She stood hesitantly, and he stepped closer, adopting a warm, familiar posture. The group walked by, one of them calling out something in Arabic. The man responded with a polite wave, keeping Kate close at his side until they passed out of sight. The moment they were gone, he stepped back immediately, respectful, giving her space. "Thank you," he said. "You truly saved me from a long and unpleasant conversation." Kate tried to smile, but the weight in her chest barely shifted. The man noticed. His expression softened. "My name is Kareem," he said gently. "Kareem Al-Hadi. I'm Kate." "Ms. Kate, are you all right?" His voice carried no pressure, only genuine concern. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came. Kareem glanced again at the crumpled itinerary in her trembling hand. "Were you abandoned here?" he asked quietly. The question broke something inside her. She nodded just once. Kareem didn't pry, didn't ask for details. "Come," he said softly. "Let me help you find safe transportation. You shouldn't be alone in this state." Kate resisted out of instinct. I don't want to be a burden. You won't be, Kareem replied. I promise. There was no judgment in his eyes, no hidden agenda, only steady kindness. Slowly, hesitantly, Kate accepted. Kareem arranged a discreet car and accompanied her out of the airport. The city lights glimmered as they drove toward his villa, a serene home tucked behind tall gates. Inside, the warm, maternal housekeeper, Amira Hassan, greeted her with gentle eyes and soft hands. Amira led her to a guest room prepared with fresh linens, water, and toiletries. It was the first kindness Kate had been shown all day, and it nearly brought her to tears again. Kareem gave Kate a temporary phone the next morning, nothing fancy. Just a basic device with a local SIM card. He handed it to her with quiet reassurance, telling her she could use it as long as she needed. Kate thanked him, though her fingers trembled slightly as she held it. The thought of calling home both comforted her and filled her with dread. Still, she needed to hear her grandchildren's voices. She stepped onto the villa's back patio, where the early Dubai sun warmed the stone floor. With a deep breath, she dialed Brandon's number. After 2 rings, her grandson picked up. Hello. Brandon? It's Grandma. There was a beat of silence, surprise, confusion. Grandma, where are you? Mom said you went somewhere on your own, like some adventure thing. Kate closed her eyes. Sweetheart, that's not true. I didn't go anywhere on my own. Your mom and things didn't go well. She told me to head home early. Wait, Brandon said slowly. But she said you left us. She said you needed a break from everyone. The word stung. Kate swallowed hard. No, honey, I would never do that. Before she could explain further, Jessica's voice sounded faintly in the background. Sharp, irritated. Who are you talking to? Is that? Give me the phone, Brandon. The call abruptly ended. Kate stared at the screen, her breath shaky. She sat for a long moment, hands folded tightly in her lap. She didn't want to cry again, not here, not in someone else's home. But the ache in her chest made it difficult to stay composed. An hour later, the phone rang. Brandon again. His voice was different this time. Tight? Broken. Grandma. Mom said you're lying. Kate's heart sank. What did she tell you? She said you're making drama, that you're doing this for attention, that you abandoned us, and now you're trying to make her look bad. His voice cracked. I don't know what to believe. I don't understand. A slow, heavy pain spread through Kate's body. Brandon, listen to me. I would never abandon you. Never. She said you always do this, he whispered. That you disappear and make everything harder. Chloe's crying. Mom's yelling. I don't know what's true anymore. Kate pressed a hand over her mouth to stop a sob. Jessica wasn't just angry. She was actively rewriting the truth, poisoning the very people Kate loved most. The betrayal felt deeper than anything Jessica had ever done. Honey, Kate said softly, I love you, and I haven't left you. I'm safe. I just need a little time. I miss you, Brandon whispered before the line went dead again, as if someone had taken the phone away. Kate lowered the phone and stared at her hands. The garden around her was quiet, the swaying palms, the distant hum of city life. But inside her, everything was shaking. This wasn't just conflict. Jessica was trying to erase her, to turn the children against the one person who had always been there for them. A soft sound of footsteps approached. When Kate looked up, she saw Kareem standing at the edge of the garden path. He wasn't intrusive, he didn't speak at first. He simply waited until Kate lifted her gaze enough to meet his. Bad news from home? He asked gently. Kate nodded, tears spilling freely now. My daughter. She's telling the kids awful things. Things that aren't true. And they're so young, they believe her. Kareem took a slow breath and sat beside her on the stone bench, leaving just enough space so she wouldn't feel crowded. I know that pain, he said quietly. My own children, when their mother died, anger, grief. Misunderstandings pulled us apart. They blamed me for things that weren't real, and I lost them for years. Kate looked at him, surprised by the openness in his voice. He continued, Estrangement cuts deeper when it comes from your own blood, but it doesn't define your worth. His calm, steady tone didn't fix everything, but it steadied her breathing. For the first time since arriving in Dubai, Kate felt she wasn't carrying the weight alone. Here, in a stranger's garden half a world away, someone finally understood. The following days settled into a quiet rhythm, one that felt strange at first, then unexpectedly comforting. After the chaos and cruelty she had endured, the calm inside Karim's villa felt almost unreal, like stepping into a room where the air itself was kinder. Each morning, Amira Hassan greeted Kate with warm tea and a patient smile. She never asked intrusive questions, never made Kate feel like a burden. Amira simply accepted her presence, as if she had always belonged there. By the third day, Kate found herself drifting naturally into small tasks around the house. She organized a cluttered shelf of books in the living room, alphabetizing them the way she used to at home. She helped Amira fold linens. She taught a few staff members simple English phrases, greetings, polite expressions, basic instructions. They laughed shyly as they practiced, grateful for her patience. These were small things, but they grounded her. They made her feel useful again. Karim noticed. One afternoon, he paused in the hallway as she was dusting the library shelves. You've brought a positive energy into this home, he said, genuine warmth in his voice. Amira tells me the staff adore you. Kate blushed, brushing off the compliment. I'm just keeping busy. Busy is good, he replied. Healing often begins with small routines. As the week unfolded, Karim invited her to join him for informal gatherings, dinners with friends, casual meetings in his outdoor courtyard. The people he introduced her to were nothing like the polished, distant figures she imagined a wealthy businessman would associate with. They were artists, architects, entrepreneurs, and healthcare professionals, each one carrying stories marked by loss, reinvention, or complicated family dynamics. Some were estranged from their siblings. Others had children who no longer spoke to them. A few were single parents who had rebuilt their lives from scratch. To Kate's surprise, they welcomed her with ease. They asked for her opinions. They listened, not politely or dismissively, but with real interest. It had been so long since she'd been treated that way. During a dinner on the patio, a tall man with kind eyes introduced himself as Dr. Samir Hassan, a physician specializing in geriatric care. When he learned Kate had spent 40 years as a nurse, his eyebrows rose with genuine admiration. That's not a career, he said. That's a lifetime of service. Kate laughed softly. Some days it felt like it. Still, Dr. Hassan continued, experience like yours is rare and valuable. Many of us in healthcare could learn from someone who has seen decades of real patient care. The words reached a place inside her she had forgotten existed. For so long, Jessica's cutting remarks had convinced her she was outdated, irrelevant, a burden. Hearing someone speak about her work with respect, true respect, felt like water after a long drought. Later that night, lying in the comfortable guest room Amira kept immaculate, Kate replayed the doctor's words. Valuable, rare. She had not felt valuable in years. But even as warmth slowly settled in her heart, another ache remained. Every few hours, she checked the temporary phone Karim had given her. She kept the volume turned all the way up, afraid she might miss a call. She thought surely Jessica would reach out, maybe offer an apology, or at least ask if she was safe. But the screen stayed blank, silent, and cold. Some part of her still believed her daughter would come to her senses. Another part knew she might be waiting for something that would never come. Yet in this quiet corner of Dubai, surrounded by unfamiliar kindness, Kate began to rediscover pieces of herself she thought had been gone forever. It happened on a quiet afternoon, just as the late Dubai sun cast long shadows across the villa's courtyard. Kate was helping Amira sort laundry when the temporary phone buzzed sharply in her pocket. Her heart lifted, half hope, half fear. Jessica's name flashed on the screen. Kate stepped outside to answer, pacing near the garden wall for privacy. "Hello." Jessica didn't return the greeting. Her voice came through hard, fast, and already angry. "What do you think you're doing?" Kate froze. "Jessica, I've been waiting to hear from you. I'm glad you know. Don't act innocent." Jessica cut her off sharply. "People at the conference saw you crying at the airport. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that is for me?" Kate blinked, stunned. Of all the things she expected to hear, concern wasn't among them, but neither was this. "I was overwhelmed, Jessica. You left me with nothing. No phone. No money." "Oh, please," Jessica snapped. "You're being dramatic. Again. You always need someone to feel sorry for you." Kate felt her throat tighten. "Jessica, I didn't ask anyone for anything. You just made a scene," Jessica said coldly. "And now you're staying with strangers? God, Mom. Do you have any idea how irresponsible that is? You could get yourself kidnapped, or worse. And then what? I'm the one who looks bad. I'm the one who gets blamed." A faint tremor passed through Kate's hands. "Honey, I didn't choose this. I didn't have anywhere else to go. I didn't even have a way to call." "Well, that's not my problem," Jessica snapped. "You should have figured something out. Honestly, I don't understand why you're still there. Isn't your little adventure over?" Kate took a slow breath. For the first time in years, she didn't cower or apologize instinctively. Something inside her, the part she'd rediscovered over the past week, rose to the surface. "Jessica," she said softly, "I'm not ready to come home yet." Silence. Then Jessica laughed, a short, disbelieving sound, sharp enough to cut. "Not ready? Are you serious? You're 65. You don't get to just wander around the Middle East like some carefree teenager. You need to come back. Now." "I need a little time," Kate said gently. "Just a little. I'm safe here. I'm with kind people." "Oh, so now strangers are kinder to you than your own daughter." Jessica's voice was laced with indignation. Unbelievable. Kate swallowed. "That's not what I'm saying." "Well, it's what it sounds like." Jessica paused, her tone lowering into something colder, more controlled. "Whatever. Fine. Have your fun. Pretend you're reborn or whatever nonsense you've decided." Kate felt her chest ache. Her voice trembled, but she didn't retreat. "Jessica, why are you speaking to me like this? I'm your mother." "Don't play the victim," Jessica said flatly. "You want to stay there? Go ahead. But don't expect me to fix anything when it all blows up in your face." "Jessica, and listen carefully," Jessica continued, each word icy and deliberate. "When they get tired of you, don't come crawling back." The line went dead. Kate stood still in the garden, the heat of the day fading against her skin as a deeper chill settled in her bones. It wasn't the anger that hurt most. It wasn't even the lack of remorse. It was the clarity. For the first time, Kate saw her daughter without excuses, without softened edges. She heard the cruelty plainly, felt its weight without denial, and as the silence grew around her, she understood something painful but necessary. Her daughter hadn't just lashed out in a moment of stress. Jessica had meant every word. 2 days passed after Jessica's call, and though Kate tried to settle back into the gentle rhythm of the villa, something inside her remained shaken. The words her daughter had thrown at her, cold, sharp, unfiltered, echoed in her mind with every quiet moment. She found herself walking through the courtyards more than usual, trying to make sense of how a child she had raised with love could speak to her with such disdain. One morning, while she was organizing books in the library Kareem stepped inside. His expression held a weight she hadn't seen before. Hesitant, thoughtful, perhaps even regretful. "Kate," he said softly, "may I speak with you?" She turned, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Of course." He motioned toward the seating area, and they both sat. For a long moment, Kareem said nothing, his hands clasped loosely as he searched for the right place to begin. "I've been debating whether to tell you this," he said finally, "but after what you told me about your daughter's phone call, I think you deserve the truth." Kate's stomach tightened. The truth about what? Kareem exhaled slowly. "I've seen your daughter before. Long before that day in the airport when I met you." Kate blinked, startled. "You have?" "Yes," Kareem said. "At her firm's satellite office here in Dubai. I was consulted on a joint healthcare initiative between my company and her corporate group. She attended a few meetings." Kate waited, unsure where this was going. Kareem continued, his voice gentle but steady. "Her reputation there was difficult." "Difficult how?" Kate asked, though a knot of dread had already begun to form. Kareem hesitated, choosing his words carefully. She was known for being extremely harsh with older employees, particularly those in administrative positions. There were reports of her publicly humiliating senior staff, people in their 50s and 60s, whenever they made minor mistakes. Kate felt her breath hitch. A cold ripple moved down her spine. "She showed strong age bias," Kareem added quietly, "and an enthusiasm for power that went beyond normal corporate culture." Kate stared at him, stunned. "Jessica? My Jessica?" Kareem nodded. "I didn't make the connection at first, but when you told me her full name, I remembered." He reached for his phone from the table beside him and tapped the screen a few times. Then he held it out to her. A photograph filled the display. It showed Jessica in a sleek corporate outfit, standing over an older woman, perhaps 60, who sat behind a desk, her shoulders tense and eyes lowered. Jessica leaned forward, pointing aggressively at a stack of papers, her expression harsh, lips curled in frustration. Kate's hand trembled as she took in the image. She had seen that posture before, heard that tone, felt that condemnation. For years. Now she was seeing her daughter do it to someone else. Someone who could have been in Kate's place. "I'm sorry," Kareem said softly, "but I thought you should know." Kate's throat tightened as she handed the phone back, her eyes burning. "I can't believe she would treat people that way." Kareem watched her carefully. "There's more." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "More." Kareem nodded, compassion in his gaze. "During one of the meetings, your daughter mentioned you. She referred to you as dead weight." Kate's heart cracked. "She said that." "Yes. She said the trip to Dubai was useful because it helped her get her mother out of the way for a while." Kate closed her eyes, tears welling. The betrayal cut deeper than anything she had imagined. "And recently," Kareem continued gently, "I overheard a discussion among a few of her colleagues. They mentioned she'd been researching nursing homes in New Jersey, and something about convincing you to sign paperwork that would give her control of your financial decisions." Kate's eyes snapped open, her pulse pounding. Financial control? She wanted power of attorney. Kareem nodded gravely. "It seems so." A shiver ran through her. Images flashed through her mind. Jessica's sudden sweetness before the trip, the way she'd insisted on handling Kate's travel documents, her irritation whenever Kate asked questions, and then the airport, taking her phone, her wallet, her cards, leaving her with nothing. Kate realized now what she hadn't allowed herself to see. Jessica hadn't just abandoned her. Jessica had almost succeeded in removing her independence entirely. Kareem placed a steady hand on the armrest beside her, not touching, but close enough to offer support. "You didn't imagine her cruelty," he said softly. "You survived it." Kate's tears fell silently. She wasn't just grieving the daughter she thought she had. She was grieving the truth of who Jessica had become, and the chilling realization that she had narrowly escaped a future she might never have returned from. That night, long after the lights in the villa dimmed and the hallways grew quiet, Kate found herself unable to sleep. The truth Kareem had revealed settled heavily in her chest, too sharp and too raw to ignore. She slipped out of bed, wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, and wandered through the soft glow of the villa's night lights. Kareem's home was serene at this hour, wide archways casting gentle shadows, distant lamps illuminating shelves and artwork, the faint hum of the desert wind brushing against the windows. But inside Kate, a storm churned. She moved from room to room, her fingertips brushing over surfaces as if grounding herself in the present while her mind pulled her into the past. She remembered the years she had spent raising Jessica alone after her husband died, all the unpaid childcare she had provided, not just for Jessica, but later for Brandon and Chloe too. Every emergency school pickup, every weekend babysitting shift Jessica requested without warning. Every holiday she had spent entertaining the children so Jessica could catch up on work. She remembered the financial sacrifices, the savings she had drained to help Jessica through various crises. Car repairs, apartment deposits, tutoring for the kids, medical bills Jessica insisted she couldn't cover. Each time, Kate had told herself it was what mothers did. She never questioned it. She remembered the emotional belittling too, the subtle jabs at her age, the way Jessica rolled her eyes when Kate forgot something small, the dismissive sighs whenever Kate offered advice, the cold statements disguised as jokes. "You wouldn't understand, Mom. It's a different world now. You're too sensitive. You're lucky I even include you." Each memory surfaced like a shard working its way back to the skin. For decades, Kate had excused them all, telling herself Jessica was stressed, overwhelmed, tired. But walking through the quiet villa, she finally saw the pattern clearly. Jessica hadn't seen her as a mother in a long time. She had seen her as a resource, a safety net, a servant, a problem to manage when convenient. The realization cut deeply, carving out a pain Kate didn't know how to name. She reached the garden doors and stepped outside. The air was cool and gentle, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers. She sank onto a bench beneath a jasmine vine and let the tears come freely, no longer trying to fight them. She didn't know how long she sat there before she sensed someone nearby. When she looked up, Kareem stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, expression soft with understanding. "I heard the door," he said quietly. "I wanted to make sure you were all right." Kate wiped her cheeks. "I'm fine. Just thinking." Kareem walked over, but didn't sit until she nodded. He left a respectful distance between them. "Sometimes the truth is more painful than the lie we've been living," he said. Kate exhaled shakily. "I thought I was a good mother. I gave her everything I could. I tried so hard." Kareem nodded, his gaze steady. Giving someone everything doesn't guarantee they'll value it. And their cruelty, he paused, letting the words settle gently, is not your fault. You are not responsible for another person's cruelty, Kate, even if that person is your child. Her breath trembled as she absorbed that. No one had ever said it to her, that plainly. Kareem continued softly. Sometimes love becomes an obligation in someone else's eyes, and we only see the imbalance when it's too heavy to carry. Kate looked toward the dark horizon, the quiet city lights reflecting in her eyes. For the first time, the truth didn't shatter her, it steadied her. The grief was still there, sharp and real, but beneath it something began to form. A small, tentative resolve, a beginning. She wasn't losing her daughter tonight. She was finally seeing her clearly, 2 mornings after her quiet awakening in the garden. Kareem approached Kate with an unexpected invitation. He found her in the courtyard, helping Amira prune a row of flowering shrubs. His expression held a mix of enthusiasm and gentle caution, as if he wasn't sure how she might respond. "Kate," he said, "I'd like you to join me at a meeting today, only if you feel up to it." Kate wiped her hands on a towel. "A meeting? What kind?" "With a colleague of mine," Kareem replied. "A physician, Dr. Samir Hassan. He's overseeing the development of a new luxury senior care center. Your background might be useful." Kate froze for a moment, pruning shears still in her hand. "My background?" Kareem nodded. 40 years of nursing isn't something you just leave behind. I think you might have insights they've overlooked." Kate's heart fluttered, not with fear, but with something warm and foreign. Possibility. I'd be honored," she said softly. Kareem smiled. "Good. Then let's go." The meeting took place in a sleek conference room inside a medical complex in Dubai Healthcare City. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the skyline. The room filled with soft light that made everything feel open and forward-looking. Dr. Samir Hassan greeted her warmly, recognizing her from the dinner they'd shared days earlier. "Ms. Whitmore," he said with genuine respect, "I'm glad Kareem brought you." Around the table sat architects, administrators, and healthcare planners. After brief introductions, Dr. Hassan projected the senior care center's preliminary care protocols onto a screen. Daily schedules, safety procedures, staff-to-resident ratios, medication management systems, and proposed activity plans. When he invited feedback, the room fell silent until Kate slowly raised her hand. She wasn't used to speaking in large groups, but something about the encouraging faces around her, Kareem's steady nod, Dr. Hassan's patient smile, made her voice stronger than she expected. "I noticed," Kate began, "that your nighttime staffing ratio is lower than the daytime. In my experience, that's when emergencies are most likely: confusion, wandering, respiratory issues. You might want to increase coverage between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. A few heads turned, surprised. She continued, "And your mobility plan focuses mainly on morning exercise. Many seniors benefit from multiple short mobility sessions throughout the day. It lowers fall risk dramatically." Dr. Hassan scribbled notes. "Excellent point." Kate exhaled, encouraged. She pointed to the activity schedule. "Art and music therapy are wonderful, but I don't see anything about sensory gardens or outdoor time. Sunlight exposure can help regulate sleep cycles, especially for residents with cognitive decline." By now, everyone was listening intently, administrators nodding, architects revising their designs, a few exchanging impressed glances. 40 years of experience flowed through her. Things she had learned from real patients, real families, real crises. She wasn't reading from a textbook. She was speaking from a lifetime of service. When she finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then Dr. Hassan said, "Ms. Whitmore, would you consider joining our leadership team?" Kate blinked. "Leadership?" "Yes," he said. "We need a director of patient well-being. Someone who understands care not just as policy, but as lived experience. The role includes housing and a salary of approximately $7,000 per month. Your insight is exactly what we're missing." Kate stared at him, stunned. She had spent months, years, feeling invisible, dismissed, called useless. Now strangers from across the world were telling her she was needed. Kareem looked at her with quiet pride. After a long breath, Kate said softly, "I would love that." Over the next several days, she completed paperwork, met with staff, and visited the construction site. Slowly, she felt herself standing straighter, breathing more deeply, remembering parts of herself she had forgotten. Independence wasn't just returning. She was rebuilding it from the ground up. Just when everything felt steady, the temporary phone rang. "Jessica." Kate answered, bracing herself. Her daughter didn't even say hello. "So, Mom, I heard you got yourself a job," Jessica scoffed. "A job? In Dubai?" Really? Can you stop pretending and come home? Kate swallowed, but her voice remained calm, solid anchored. Jessica, this is my real life now. A stunned silence followed before Jessica hung up. Kate lowered the phone, a soft resolve settling over her. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of standing her ground. She was finally choosing herself. The confrontation began on a warm, bright afternoon, one of those deceptively peaceful days when the world looks calm even as something trembles beneath the surface. Kate had just finished reviewing medication safety procedures with one of the project nurses when she heard Amira calling from the front courtyard. "Kate, there are guests here for you." Kate stepped outside and froze. Jessica was standing at the villa gate, sunglasses pushed up into her hair, fury radiating off her like heat. Brandon and Chloe stood behind her, both looking exhausted from travel and deeply confused. Kareem emerged from the hallway a few moments later, surprised to find an unexpected family drama unfolding on his doorstep. Jessica didn't waste a second. "So this is where you've been hiding," she snapped, pointing at the villa. "In some stranger's mansion, playing pretend, letting him manipulate you." Kate's breath caught, but she kept her tone neutral. "Jessica, I wasn't hiding. You left me at the airport." Jessica barked a bitter laugh. "Oh, please. I gave you a ticket home. You ran off. You embarrassed me. You always do." Brandon and Chloe looked between them, their expressions conflicted. "Mom," Brandon whispered, "you said Grandma wandered off. You said she ditched us." Kate felt her heart crack. "Sweetheart, I would never leave you. Not for 1 second." Jessica spun on him. "Don't listen to her, Brandon. She's being dramatic again." Kareem stepped forward calmly. "Jessica, perhaps we should move inside." "Oh, no," Jessica cut in sharply. "You don't get to speak. I know people like you. You see a lonely older woman and think you can control her." Kareem didn't flinch. "I have done nothing but help her when she was stranded." Jessica scoffed. "Right, because helping strangers is so common around here." Brandon winced. Chloe stepped closer to Kate, as if sensing something was deeply wrong. Kate inhaled slowly. This moment, this unraveling, had been building for decades. And now, with her grandchildren watching, she knew she had to speak clearly, without anger, but without fear. "Kids," she said gently, "I need to tell you the truth about what happened." Jessica's eyes widened. "Don't you dare!" But Kate continued. "Your mother drove me to the airport. She took my phone, my wallet, my cards. She gave me a fake flight itinerary and left." Both children gasped softly. "I had no way to call anyone," Kate said, her voice trembling but steady. "I sat there crying because I didn't know how I would get home. Kareem helped me. That's why I'm still safe." Jessica stepped forward, face flushed with rage. "You're lying. Why would I take your phone? It's on MY plan. She stopped abruptly, realizing too late what she'd admitted. Brandon stared at her. "Mom, you took her phone." Brandon, you don't understand. And the wallet?" Kate asked quietly. "The credit cards?" Jessica's jaw tightened. "If you had kept track of your money, I wouldn't have had to do that." "Had to?" Kate whispered. "You abandoned me." Jessica threw up her hands. "I never asked to be your daughter. I never asked to be born. Don't forget that." The words hit the courtyard like a physical blow. Chloe burst into tears. Brandon's face crumpled in disbelief. Even Kareem looked shaken. Kate felt something inside her break. Cleanly, finally, irreversibly. She took a breath, then knelt so she was eye level with her grandchildren. "Brandon, Chloe, I love you both more than anything in the world. You didn't deserve to hear that. None of this is your fault." They clung to her, crying. Jessica glared, arms crossed, as if refusing to be affected. After a moment, Kate gently pulled back. "Sweethearts, can you please go inside? Amira is in the kitchen. I need to speak with your mother." Brandon wiped his cheeks. Chloe hesitated but nodded. They walked toward the villa, heads low. When the children were out of earshot, Kate rose and faced Jessica directly. "No more yelling," she said quietly. "No more insults. No more manipulation. If you want a relationship with me, it will be based on respect. Nothing else." Jessica laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "Respect? From you? After all the trouble you've caused me?" Kate didn't respond with anger this time. Only clarity. "This isn't trouble, Jessica. This is accountability." Jessica's face twisted. "You're choosing them over your own daughter? Some strangers you barely know." "I'm choosing myself," Kate said softly. "For the first time." Jessica shook her head violently. Then she stormed toward the gate, grabbing the children as they emerged from the kitchen doorway. "We're leaving. All of us. Now." Chloe looked back at Kate with tearful eyes. Then Jessica pulled them into the waiting taxi and slammed the door. Kate stood in the courtyard long after the car disappeared, the warm Dubai air swirling around her. It wasn't triumph she felt. It was liberation, quiet, painful, and long overdue. A year later, the senior care center that had once existed only as a set of blueprints and protocols was now a living, breathing place. Sunlight spilled into wide hallways painted in warm tones. The scent of fresh flowers drifted from carefully tended planters. In the communal rooms, soft music played while residents read, painted, or simply watched the world pass by through large windows. And in the middle of it all, moving with calm authority and quiet compassion, was Kate Whitmore. Staff greeted her with respect. Nurses, aides, administrators, all referring to her as Ms. Whitmore or Director Kate, not out of obligation, but out of genuine regard. Families requested her specifically when they toured the facility, asking if she would be involved in their loved ones' care plans. Residents, too, had learned to seek her out when they felt anxious or unsettled. She had a way of listening that made people feel safe. Her decades of experience had shaped nearly every aspect of the center's daily life. Night staffing levels had been adjusted, outdoor sensory gardens added, and multiple shorter activity blocks implemented throughout the day. Under her guidance, falls decreased, sleep improved, and families sent thank you notes that filled an entire bulletin board near her office. Kate had not simply found a job. She had found a purpose. One evening, as she finished updating a care report in her small office, her phone buzzed with a message notification. She glanced at the screen and paused. The name read Brandon. Her heart stuttered. Brandon was 18 now, old enough to make his own choices, no longer bound by the stories Jessica told. Hands trembling slightly, Kate opened the message. "Hi, Grandma. Can we talk?" They arranged a video call for later that night. When Brandon's face appeared on the screen, a little older, a little more serious, Kate felt a rush of love and sorrow all at once. "Hey," he said softly. "You look good. Different. Happy." "I am happy," Kate replied. "It's really good to see you." They spoke for a long time about his last year of high school, about college plans, about Chloe and how fast she was growing up. Eventually, Brandon's expression shifted and he sighed. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Mom lost her job." Kate's chest tightened. What happened? Brandon's gaze flickered away, then back. There were complaints, older employees, HR investigations. They said she was mistreating them, saying things she shouldn't, being harsh and biased. I guess it finally caught up with her. The words were a mirror of what Kate already knew from Kareem's world, but hearing it confirmed by her grandson made it more real. She felt sorrow, not triumph. Jessica's choices had led her exactly where Kate feared they would. "I'm worried about you and Chloe," Kate said gently. "We're okay," Brandon replied. "Mom's not great. She's stressed, angry, but I have a part-time job. And I help Chloe with her homework and stuff. We're managing." Kate's instinct to rush in, to rescue, to sacrifice, rose automatically. But this time, something steadier stood beside it, the hard-earned understanding that she was not responsible for saving Jessica from the consequences of her own behavior. She could care, she could worry, but she no longer had to carry the weight of everyone else's choices. "I'm always here for you and your sister," she said softly. "That will never change. But I also need you to know, I'm okay. I have a life here. A good one." Brandon smiled faintly. "I can tell." A few weeks later, arrangements were made. Brandon and Chloe would visit Dubai during their school break, traveling under the supervision of another relative for part of the journey. When they finally stepped into the lobby of the senior care center, suitcases rolling behind them, their eyes widened in awe. "Grandma," Chloe whispered, looking around at the bright, peaceful space. "You work here?" Kate nodded. "I do." They watched as staff greeted her with familiarity and respect, as a resident reached out to thank her for helping adjust his medications, as a nurse asked if she could review a new schedule. Brandon and Chloe stood a little taller, something shifting in their understanding of who their grandmother really was. Later that day, they visited Kate's apartment, a modest but beautiful space overlooking parts of the city and a distant stretch of water. Photos of residents' art projects lined one wall. A small stack of medical journals sat on the coffee table beside framed pictures of Brandon and Chloe. When Jessica arrived at the end of their stay to pick them up, she looked different. Not broken, but subdued. The sharpness in her eyes had dulled into something more guarded, more tired. She stepped into the lobby, glanced around, and then saw Kate walking toward her. "Hi, Mom," Jessica said quietly. No scene, no accusations, no raised voice. Kate nodded. "Hello, Jessica." The exchange was simple, almost mundane. But beneath it, something had shifted. Jessica had seen, with her own eyes or through her children's stories, that her mother was not lost, not helpless, not clinging to some fantasy. She was thriving. 6 months later, a different kind of message arrived, not by phone but by mail. A handwritten letter, addressed in Jessica's careful script. Kate sat at her small dining table and opened it slowly. Jessica wrote that she was in therapy now, that losing her job had forced her to confront patterns she hadn't wanted to see. She admitted she had treated older employees badly, that she had spoken to her own mother in ways that were cruel and unjustified. She confessed she still felt defensive, still struggled to say the actual words, "I'm sorry," but she was trying. She did not ask for forgiveness. She didn't beg for reconciliation. She simply told the truth, as much of it as she could manage. When Kate finished reading, she let the letter rest in her lap for a long time. Then she picked up a pen and wrote back, with love but also with boundaries. She told Jessica she wished her well, that she was proud she was seeking help, that the door to future contact would always be open, but only if respect walked through it first. That evening, as the day cooled, Kate stepped out onto her apartment balcony. The city stretched beneath her, lights flickering on, a soft wind moving through the buildings, the sky painted in muted colors of dusk. She leaned on the railing, breathing in the quiet. Her life had not become perfect. The past had not vanished, but she was no longer defined by her daughter's cruelty, nor by the years she had spent begging to be seen. Her victory wasn't revenge. It was becoming someone who no longer needed her abuser's approval to feel whole. And standing there above the glowing city, Kate Whitmore felt, perhaps for the first time in her life, completely her own.